I'm here with Masechaba Lekalake, a very iconic presenter, a vibrant young woman who has done so much in the entertainment and media world. You've done everything from script writing to content producing to hosting, radio, television. I mean, how did you first decide that this is the field that you wanted to be in?
Sure, well, thanks for the lovely introduction. Iconic.
Yes, you are. You really are, because you're still so young, but you've achieved so much and you've delved into so many various aspects of media, which does make you iconic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, you know, if somebody had told me 15, 20 years ago that this is where I'd be, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have laughed, because I was painfully shy. And I pretty much studied journalism so I could write. I wanted to become a writer. I've been writing since I could hold a pencil. Writing children's short stories, poetry. I used to sketch and design. The first thing I wanted to become after matric was a fashion designer and a writer. And, well, cut a long story short, as fate would have it, I encountered someone who thought that I was absolutely dynamic and very articulate and had a great personality. His name is Kabelo. He used to, or still does, Channel O.
Oh yes,
yeah,
maybe.
And I was accompanying a friend of mine to go pick up her check, and he was like, "So, are you a presenter?" So I said, "Presenter? No. He said, "Are you thinking about it?" I said, "No, I've never thought about it." And he gave me a number for an agent of his at the time. And a couple of months later, I was so broke, I was like, you know what, maybe I could try this thing out.
Okay, so it came out of necessity.
It just happened.
And a passion.
Out of necessity. The passion is for the storytelling, but I didn't realize that I could do the same thing on air. But now this is where the marriage of my passion and my talent came, like the skill. I started presenting a wrestling show, but I wasn't happy. And I was even reprimanded for reading a book in between the fights. They're like, "You gotta look interested. You can't be reading a novel."
Yes.
In between the stuff, you know. But I got to a point where I said, you know what, I love this presenting thing, but I also love storytelling, and I want to be able to communicate impactful messages to people. So maybe I can do both. And if the camera loves me, and that's a brilliant way that I can communicate, then let me consider aligning my purpose with my talent.
Okay, great. I guess that would be where working for SABC Africa would come in.
Yeah.
Also doing eNews Africa, you're one of the first anchors, and you also say you were quite hands-on when it comes to that as well.
Yes.
With your journalism background.
Yeah.
So would you say that this was luck or planned on your part?
Well, I don't believe in luck. I believe in fate. And I also believe in the fact that God knows everything from, you know, He knows the end from the beginning. And I believe in destiny. I believe that the things that are meant for you will come to you. But you've got to be awake. You've got to be present to pick up on the opportunities. And you've really got to have a sense of self-belief, because if something comes your way and you're sitting there thinking, I can't do this. If I had to listen to my fear every time I stepped up to the plate, I would have backed down very quickly. But with regards to the journalism, I strategically took on certain jobs to sharpen my journalistic flair. Like when I was approached to host Weekend Live when Cindy Mabe left and came to ETV. And I produced and presented Weekend Live after I produced and presented Afro Showbiz News. And I pretty much produced and presented every single show that I've been on, with the exception of the news programs. But even though I'd gotten to news and I had journalists that were busy putting together the reports and the bulletins, I was still very much involved, because I don't know how not to be involved. I'm on the radio now, and I produce, and I don't get paid to produce, and I think it's time they bump the cheese up, actually.
Okay, so you're very much about not being just a pretty face.
Yeah,
you don't want to be just a face of a brand. You want to actually have intellectual input, and you know, one could say as well that you demand it.
I demand it because I am the show, if that makes sense. So how can I bring my best me when I'm regurgitating words off of a script. I have to own the script. So I've even established a system with even shows like One Day Leader, which was a youth debate show, where the writers would send me the final script and the final draft, and I would send them the final, and that was the final because I would edit the hell out of that thing so that it suited me, because that's me.
You don't want to put a product out there that at the end of the day you don't feel represents you 100%.
Exactly. And people always ask me, like, you are so convincing, how do you pull that off? Because it's coming from my heart. You see what I'm saying? And what that means is that I have to believe in the show before I take it on. I cannot, after the wrestling show, I vowed I will never again host a show. And I'm grateful to that show because it gave me my first live audience experience. I mean, I had to literally, even though it was pre-recorded, but I had to stand up in a ring surrounded by people. That was the worst thing when I'd never done it before. So everything I did led up to...
So you're saying you haven't always had this confidence?
No, absolutely not. I had to fake it until I made it.
Okay.
And that was advice that I got from a young lady named Tanusha Naidu in high school, because you could see I battled socially, like I was just like an outcast.
Really?
And, yeah, completely. I didn't have friends. I hung out, I was more comfortable with boys. I hung out with the boys, but the girls were always talking about me because they felt that I was, maybe, I don't know what they felt actually, let me not even speak on their behalf, but they didn't like me. So I eventually got to the point where I developed very thick skin, but I wasn't a person that was all about circles. I was an individual from the get-go. So even the decisions that I've always made in my career have been such that it's been about my individual progress and where I'm headed. I don't care about what's cool. You know, like I'd rather be doing the Power Life on Power FM, which is in the evening, than be doing breakfast. I don't want to do breakfast. Like I will fight tooth and nail. I don't want to do breakfast, but I know that that's the prime spot. I understand, but that's not where my heart is, because that's not where my purpose lies.
You deserve to know more.
eNCA.com.